Tell me about the people that you're talking to who are coming to you, for a quote or something new. What are they, what is the biggest struggle for them? What are you helping them with
Well,
most?
generally, they don't have access to good health insurance coverage unless they go to the marketplace. And we know what's going on there. Rates are climbing at 15 to 20% a year. People are frustrated with the very high deductibles.
Welcome to Small Strides, Big Business, the podcast for insurance agents who want to grow their business in a way that feels smart, sustainable, and authentic. On this podcast, we have honest conversations about better sales interactions, client service, automation, mindset, marketing, referrals, practical things that move your business forward in real life. Whether you're brand new or years into the game, so grab a notebook and let's dive into today's conversation.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back. My name's Crystal Small, and I have William here with us today from Modern Healthcare Plans of America. Hey, William, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Just a little bit about you. William Allison, you have been in the insurance industry for about 40 years, and your company focuses on offering healthcare plans outside of the marketplace. So let's just jump right in. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about why insurance? What got you into insurance?
My father was a life insurance executive and my mentor, but I didn't really I didn't want to be involved in all the regulatory environment that a insurance company. And so my career really started off more in sales and being an agent. And I learned that we could really build a nice business being more on that side of things as a broker. And I started going to meetings when I was literally 7 years old to learned and listened to him and a lot of the producers that I still respect to this day. A lot of them have passed on, but that was sort of my inspiration. I did go to law school for a year, and I just decided after a year of that it just was not my thing. I have great friends that are lawyers and are great at it, but it was not my calling. But I've enjoyed the insurance industry for 39 years, almost 40 years, early next year. And it's been an interesting ride. I met my wife. We've been married 30. I met her working for one of the companies I started with. And we have two adult sons that work full time with us. And so it's like our whole family's in this. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure your children started at 7 as well, just hearing about insurance and learning the ropes on some level. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you guys do.
We offer individual health plans. Mostly we do small business groups as well, but we offer plans to individuals that are private healthcare plans that are not part of the marketplace. We do that in a very unique way, which we'll be glad to get into a little bit deeper and discuss. But what I found a number of years ago is that there was a huge, just very large need, and there was a lot of things transforming or changing in the industry. I've done a little bit of everything from writing life insurance annuities, doing worksite type benefits. And health insurance really intrigued me because there just was such a demand. Everybody has to have it in some form or another, pretty much, or they're taking, some real financial risk. And what I found was that a lot of our prospects already have some coverage of some sort, but they're looking for a better value. They're looking for lower costs, better benefits, better access to providers and that kind of thing. So I found that very interesting. I learned a lot listening to a lot of experts in consumer advocacy, as well as people in the industry that were selling and writing coverage for individuals in small groups.
Awesome. Tell me about the people that you're talking to who are coming to you, for a quote or something new. What is the biggest struggle for them? What are you helping them with?
Generally, they don't have access to good health insurance coverage unless they go to the marketplace. Rates are climbing at 15 to 20% a year. People are frustrated with the very high deductibles. It's common to see eight, nine, $10,000 annual deductibles, the subsidies. And our typical client is self-employed, not always, but they either are self-employed or work somewhere where group health benefits are not offered, or they're an entrepreneur or sole proprietor of some sort. And we're talking real estate agents, attorneys. We've written some doctors, a lot of travel nurses. They make great money, but they don't a lot of times have access to group health coverage. Contractors, heat and air businesses, plumbers, that's kind of a variety of people we talk to every day. And their frustrations are that, again, finding value is what I have found is really a key. And a lot of people think it's people that are really budget conscious. And that is true to a very large extent, but it's not people on the low income scale necessarily. It's funny, it's almost the opposite. It's people that do have money that are sometimes looking for a better deal. And maybe that's why they have money because they shop so hard.
Yeah.
They work so hard to do, but because someone has a lot of money doesn't mean they want to give it away or pay it, and that's what I found to be very interesting. But what I would say is these are individuals who are typically prosperous. They're not wealthy necessarily,
Mhm.
but they're prosperous, but they're looking for value. Really, for us to help someone, they need to be somewhat healthy. And what I mean by that is no chronic health issues like COPD or kidney failure, type 1 diabetics. We can help them, but we're probably going to recommend marketplace coverage, and we're kind of right back to that same spot. But our plans are really they are fully underwritten. But most people do qualify. About 87% of individuals we talk to do qualify, and they can have marginal health issues, like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, maybe take anxiety meds or have something that is, sleep apnea, things like that are not chronic. And we can help those individuals find a lot of times really good coverage. State availability is important. It depends on what state they live in. We really have two different types of coverages. One is a defined benefit medical plan. It is not ACA compliant. It is not as robust maybe as a major medical, but it is almost that. And it is about half the cost. And that really gets a lot of attention because, I was talking to a producer a few days ago, and he's the largest producer of marketplace plans in the state of Colorado. And he said, "Do you realize that a bronze plan with a $5,000 deductible on the marketplace in the state of Colorado is $4,000 a month for a family of four?" I
It's
said, "That's
insane.
insane."
Yeah.
It's just,
And
when you say something went up 15% this year, it sounds like, well, that's not that bad. But keep in mind, that's 15% over the 15% from the previous year and the year before. And
I feel like is a good number.
it is pretty high. Well, and in some states, it's over 20%.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Right.
it's just outrageous. So that's really kind of the focus. We try to help people with finding better coverage, and again, the state availability is important. But like um, our defined benefit medical plans are very competitive on price. They work out really well, and sometimes our clients come out ahead because they pay a defined benefit for each level of service each and every time. So if they go to the doctor and they're in network and they get a discount, the doctor charges say $80 for a visit, but their benefit's 120. They're getting a $40 benefit back from the insurance company as an excess benefit. And when they get that, in fact, we get phone calls about this all the time. "I got this check. What do I do with it?" We say, "Cash it. It's your money." But they just want to make sure nothing's wrong, or
Right, right, right.
that kind of thing. And that can get into even larger amounts if they have a hospital stay and so forth. And so people are just really intrigued by that. And I think that they really like it from the sense that, okay, if I'm a smart user of healthcare services, I stay in network, or, and this is something that we really promote, is utilizing some of our online tools like MD Save to find where they can go to providers. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there's such a disparity in cost among providers.
Mhm.
You can maybe go get a mammogram at one location for $225, and then you can go to another location and it's $685. In fact, I had a client from Illinois call one day and say, "My doctor said go to the hospital and get this mammogram done, and they want $685." And famous little response to that, and we said, "Was the doctor paying for it?" "No, they're not, you are." And so I told her, I said, "You go where you wanna go and tell the doctor, here are the results." They'll send them over, and you've saved a lot of money. And in that in that example, we found a location 3 miles from her home. She went there, got the mammogram done. She got a check for like, I think it was $25 of excess benefit after it was said and done. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize you never want to go to a hospital for routine medical care. It's just not, they're going to charge, hospitals charge a lot. They
Right.
just overcharge. Why
I
they
think
overcharge, we don't know. I mean, they just do.
yeah, and William, you just
Mhm.
touched on a really important point is education. You
Right.
know, I think a lot of people are just used to having their card and, it just covering everything.
Well, the problem that we have in the United States is that we have a very complicated healthcare system.
Yeah.
And it causes people to throw in the towel, give up and say, I don't want, just give me the best plan. Give me a certain company that, everybody takes. We wish it were that easy. It's not. We have issues even with some of the top rated companies in various states. I mean, it's just not that easy.
Yeah.
But if people do a little work, and I'm not talking about a lot, I'm talking about click and do a search maybe
Mhm.
about a certain thing. It's amazing how much information that you can get these days. That's the world we live in. And within a few minutes, they've saved six to $800,
Right.
maybe figuring out the right location to go to. It's funny because in our city, I live in Oklahoma City, and I had a client one time say, "Well, are these like back alley places?" And I was like, "Well, the doctor I'm telling you, or the location I'm telling you, I think you should go to is on Galardia Parkway, which is the most affluent part of town." And I was like, "So that's not bad?" And she laughed and she said, "Yeah, I get it."
Yeah.
Here's my view of that: there are people that in the medical community that do a fantastic job, and they want to help people and take care of people's health.
Mhm.
And then there are people that want to make money doing it. And sometimes those cross over some, but the people that want to provide the best care typically, I think, are people that got into their industry for the right reasons.
Mhm.
But there is a large disparity. Hospitals are overcharging in many cases, massive amounts, 4 or 5 times. I've seen 8, 9 times even usual and customary. And it's heartbreaking. In our state, we're the first state to pass legislation that actually, and this just happened in November of this year, our governor passed a law to basically complement the price transparency rule back from 2020 that stated that all providers nationwide were required to post all of their medical pricing or publish it. And in our state, our governor found that less than 12% of hospitals were doing that. And
Wow.
that's glaring. And there's a reason for it. And we all know the reason.
Mhm.
And so with this new legislation, I think forces their hand to be compliant and for people to have transparency and to know you should know before you go what it's going to cost.
Mm.
Unfortunately, in our society and in our culture, we're taught when you buy a car or a large ticket item like a home, you negotiate, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
do you see a car and walk onto a lot and say, "Man, that's a nice car. It's $43,000. Who do I write the check to?" No,
Right.
you negotiate and you try to get it down to whatever you can. And that's the way it is with healthcare these days. But we're not taught to do that. What happens, I think, is our doctor wearing that coat looks official and he is official and he's calling the shots. And there's a reason for that. And I believe that our doctors, for the most part, do a fine job. It's the business side that I have frustration with. And the doctors, a lot of times, I don't think they really realize some of this, but they're saying, here's what we need to do for you this is what I need to see. I need this test. I need this lab work. I need this x-ray, et cetera. And, their clinic uses ABC imaging maybe and they don't realize the cost. So there's a huge disparity in pricing in the medical community, and that is key to what's going on now with these insurance plans. The other type of insurance plan that we offer, without getting into too much industry jargon and detail, are group health plans, okay, that can be sold to a sole proprietor or a small business owner. They are fully underwritten, there are health questions, but about, as I mentioned earlier, approximately 87% of individuals or families will qualify. So we can write that individual a group health insurance plan, and it's basically a group of one. And those are not really under the jurisdiction of state insurance departments. They're ERISA, Department of Labor type
Mhm.
plans, but it's perfectly legal. They can buy these plans. There is some state availability. I'm going to say about with those plans, they're available in about 44 states approximately. So a large majority of the states, and that's really doing well. But I did want to mention.
Yeah.
I told someone the other day, I said, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think sometimes it may come off that way, but this is a book called The Price We Pay. Okay. It's written by our FDA commissioner, Marty McCary. I recommend you read that book. You know, he's was the former surgeon chief, I believe, at Johns Hopkins. And he has another book called Unaccountable.
Okay.
And again, it's about hospital billing and the kind of the trickery that goes on with billing. And then the last one I really like, and there's more of these, but Never Pay the First Bill by Marshall Allen. And I love this one because I can tell you personally, I have hospital bills or medical bills hadn't been paid yet because we're negotiating. That first one
Uh-huh.
is for $480 will get trimmed down to maybe $180. And that's the point is that and people need to know what they need to know in their state what they can do and what they're allowed to do. In our state, I know for a fact, I know what the laws are in regards to collections. So I know that if I go a certain length of time that I'm okay. They're not going to put it on my credit report. They can't legally use one of the wonderful AI search tools, whatever you've got at your disposal to really help yourself. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to do a lot of work on this. I've enjoyed kind of learning a lot about it. It's not hard work. It's literally a few minutes of your time to check some of these things out. You know, I mean, I went into a doctor's office last year, did my preventative. I'm on one of the group health plans that, my wife and I are. I'm 60, she's 62. We're on one of the group health plans that we wrote for ourselves for our business. And I go in and they said, "Well, you need to pay $350." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Well, because you're having your, your annual physical." And I was like, "But we have a major medical plan. It doesn't cost anything." And they were like, "Well, yeah, it always costs something." I'm like, no, I mean, it's 100% covered under the Affordable Care Act. That's the law. And she said, "So you don't want to pay?" And I said, I shouldn't have to pay. It's covered at 100%. And she said, "What are you, an insurance agent?" And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact,
Ding,
I
ding,
am."
ding.
But I mean, that's not
A
something
lot
that
of people won't they will just pay it. That's the scary
right.
thing.
Well, let me tell you, getting that money back is not an easy chore. I mean, I wasn't trying to be difficult. It's just that I know what I know. I know that the what the law is, and I'll share one of their experience, and this is actually happened last month. You know, my doctor said you need to get an upper GI X-ray, and I was like, okay. Hospital calls me,
Yeah.
and they said you need to come in, and you know, we're scheduling you, or no, I'm sorry, they called and said, "Are you going to be here tomorrow to do that?" And I was like, "I plan on it," and they said, "Okay, your portion of the or your cost." That you need to be prepared to pay is $3,007. I said, "Well, I've got major medical insurance and I've got an annual deductible that I've met already for the year." And they said, "Well, we're giving you the cash price." And I said,
Mm.
"Well, it sounds like you're trying to tell me I'm getting a discount, but it doesn't sound like a discount.
Right. Right.
$3,007." And when I questioned her, I said, "What's the CPT code for that?" And all that is a diagnostic code. And I'm here to tell you, I don't know all these codes, and I don't know. But once she provided it, while I'm on the phone, I put it into a search and
Yep.
asked, "What's the average cost of this procedure?" Put in the CPT code. And it said six to $800. And I said, "So why are you charging me 3,007?" "Oh, well, you'd have to talk to my supervisor about that." And I said, "Why do you think they're charging?" She's like, "I don't even want to go there." I was like, "Okay." But I mean, you know, it's just ridiculous that and what a lot of people don't realize is that there are two price structures. There's the discount cash price, and then there's what the insurance company pays. You know, they get a discount, they mark it up and then discount it. It's kind of reminds me of when a store says, "Hey, it's
Put something
50%
on
off."
sale.
Well,
Right?
yesterday they marked it up
Yes, right.
so that they could then say it's 50% off the next day.
Yeah. So when you're educating your clients, what resources do you give them? I mean, I know that you have a website, so there must be some
Right.
resources on there, but this isn't common knowledge. If somebody gets a bill for $3,000, most people will just start a payment plan,
Well,
right? So,
Marshall Allen says never pay the first bill.
yeah.
That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, let me just say this. Rule number 2 is this, and I learned this from a medical doctor who owns a company that does a great deal of patient advocacy and cost containment type of training. And the thing he told me is the number one thing people need to do is to look to see if that hospital, if it's a hospital, is a 1C3 because they get tax exempt status for providing free or reduced health care to people within certain income guidelines. And what a lot of people don't realize, you don't have to be poor to be in these guidelines. I mean, some people, my son fit into one of these categories when his wife delivered their first child. And they were she stopped working to have the baby, but he was working full time, doing very well, and had a decent income. But now you've got three people in the family. So people need to know that. And approximately half of our hospitals in the US are C3s. So we start there. And then the other thing is a lot of hospitals they do have resources, um, various resources from grants, wealthy individuals, foundations, et cetera, that do help contribute. And I recommend people do take advantage of some of these things to at least negotiate. And, in my son's case, I actually called the hospital and asked, "Why did you never ask him his income?" They never asked. So in other words, here's what's happening. They are literally accepting government taxpayer money or getting an exemption, okay? And then they try to get his wife to set up a credit card payout, not her own credit card, one that they've got in mind for her that charges 29.9% annual interest rate. And I'm sure they're getting a nice little cut of that from the credit card company. And when I asked that question, things changed very quickly. The whole conversation changed very quickly. And she showed me exactly where to find the forms on their website to have them complete to apply for the coverage from the hospital provided because they're a tax exempt entity.
Yeah.
A lot of hospitals, I'm not saying they all do, but some do put these in very difficult places to find. They
Mhm.
don't promote it. You have to know these things. You have to just know these things. And one thing I want to really emphasize, Crystal, is we have a lot of great doctors, great hospitals, great medical individuals and professionals in our country. And I don't want to sound like I'm disparaging anyone in that way. I'm
It's
talking
a
about
business.
business.
Yep,
It is a
it's a
business. It is
business.
a business. And your livelihood and your family is your business. And
Right.
we all need to protect ourselves. And we all just have to know, as our consumer rights. I think
Yeah.
it's very important that we do.
So good. All right. Well, just switching gears a little bit, talking about your experience as an insurance agent over the last couple of decades. I know that right now things are changing and you're shifting how you're providing insurance, how the products that you're providing. But just looking back over the last couple of decades, tell me what you've noticed has been changing, or what kinds of things have you had to like shift to keep up with the times?
Technology I mean, in one word, you can just literally say technology is the huge. I mean, I started my career in 1986.
Mhm.
Got licensed as an insurance professional when I was in college. Went full time when I got out of college, and wow, we thought fax machines were so cool in the early '90s. You could put a document in over here, and it would end up 2 states over here. Anyway, no, I mean it's amazing. With what's happening with AI and all of the different. I mean, it's like every day we're learning something new.
Right.
I
Right.
had an agent send me a link the other day and said, "You have got to check out this, company, this website, and how cool it is and what they're doing. It's made my life so much easier." It is making things way more efficient for a lot of us in the industry. That's the part I love. It's like the wild, wild west. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So that's the one thing I would say. And keeping up, I've got an agent who has worked with me since 1995, great guy, good friend, but he's not kept up with technology and he admits it. And he told me one day recently, he said, the difference in your career and my career is you saw that technology was important and I resisted it. He
Mm.
said, and I'm paying the price for it now. And I said, it's not too late. You're
Yes.
behind, but you can catch up. And so I really recommend that insurance professionals embrace technology as much as they can.
Awesome. I agree 100%. As a new insurance agent, I think I shared I've been here, I'm under 2 years, so I'm just a baby in the industry. What kind of, besides, embrace AI or embrace technology, what other tips or tricks or recommendations or strategies would you have for the new agent out there who's just starting or maybe wants to get to that next level?
I will tell you that as much as I love technology, we have to be careful
Mhm.
that we're not too dependent on it. Okay. And the reason my father was such an inspiration and my mentor is that I saw as a child, and I saw as I grew up, that he had this gift with people, very persuasive, but very caring, but also very businesslike at times. And he had some amazing personal skills just in the way he worked with people. He learned when he first got in the industry that he had this gift and he learned to get referrals. Now, I know that's a word that is dated, but I will tell you where we get more business almost than from any other source, and that is working with other insurance agents. I mean, it's phenomenal. We get a lot of business from property and casualty agencies because a lot of them don't write health insurance and don't want to. And I do hold trainings for a lot of those. And I tell them, listen, if someone calls your office and they say they're looking for health insurance and you say we don't offer it, what do you think happens next? They pick up the phone and call the next business down the street or across town. And if they do offer it, do you think they're just going to write them the health insurance? No, they're going to go after the auto, the home, everything you've written. So it's important to have it and be competitive. And if you don't want to get too deep into this world, and I understand a lot of people just want to stay in in
In
their
their
lane,
lane, yeah.
then decide that. And when you do decide that, let's talk about a referral partnership. You
So
send
good.
them our way, we'll write the business for you and we'll work out compensation. And we promise not to touch anything else. I mean, we're just going to write them the health insurance. We'll let you do the rest. But we do a lot of that. But a lot of our business comes from other insurance agents. A lot of it comes from other companies that do what we do, that write underwritten health plans, but their underwriting is so strict that they just want super healthy people. And we can write a lot of people that have type 2 diabetes or sleep apnea, high cholesterol, what have you, not chronic, but they have some marginal health issues. And so we get a lot of business that way. And so referral partnerships are really a big part of our business.
Excellent. Yeah. So I'm hearing referrals, 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 but partnering and also, it is a people business.
It is. Referrals, I think people think for referrals differently. I write a policy, I need to ask for referrals, and yes, you do. But really what I'm talking about are referral partnerships where you
Partnerships.
build a relationship with another agent or another group of agents. I mean, you and I had a great initial conversation and met, and you immediately had 2 people for me to talk to. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't get much easier than that, and we love doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the way our business operates. And because health insurance is such a high demand, high ticket item that everybody's trying to save money on, it's very effective in that way where we can literally open our mouth and start talking and someone says, I have someone for you to talk to. And
Wonderful.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
So
we all
good.
want.
That's so good. I think that I had a wonderful podcast with another guest who talked about staying in your lane and not, poaching business from other people. I think that's really important, when especially when you're first starting out, if you get a referral and you're like, "Oh, this is, we can do so many things," but really
I
it's
did that
about
early in my career where I'd go to church and meet someone and they'd say, "Hey, I'm looking for disability insurance. You're an insurance agent." And I'd be like, "Yeah." And I'd spend half a day fumbling around trying to find the rates. And, what was that company I talked to 4 months ago that had a good product? And well, it wasn't very efficient, and by the time I got them the quote, "Okay, that sounds good. I'll call you when I'm in I'll talk to my wife or I'll call you when we're ready to." They're not That's not a good way to work. That's not an efficient way to work, and a lot of people that just ask, that doesn't mean they're ready to buy or ready to sign up or enroll. It really just means maybe possibly they're just making conversation, and you shouldn't base your career on or
Yeah.
your livelihood on that. But I think that specializing is really important. Some of our top producers are focused. They
Mhm.
have a limited number of companies and products. They almost are proud of it and that it's exclusive. Like your company's got to be almost perfect if you want my business, kind of that attitude.
Mhm.
And honestly, it's highly effective because they can write these plans in their sleep. They know every question to ask, every angle, everything. I mean, they know everything. And I kind of, if you think back in history, and I love history and I love reading about like when Henry Ford started Ford Motor Company and developed the assembly line. The reason they could mass produce is because they knew where every bolt went, every tool to use, every wrench. They knew exactly what they were doing. It was like clockwork. And that's the way an insurance agent should operate, in my opinion.
I love that.
It
So
also leads to not getting in trouble, not misrepresenting, doing a better job as a
right.
professional, knowing your skill.
And serving your client to the best of your
Absolutely.
ability for sure, which is really what it's all about.
Yeah, and find a
Awesome.
colleague that does those other things and form a
Yeah, and
referral partnership.
referral partnership. I love it. Awesome. Well, William, how can people find you?
Yeah, so, they can find me by going to our website. It's, modernhealthcareplans.com. We've got a resources page on there for consumers where
Awesome.
they can find low-cost prescriptions and different providers, surgical centers, etcetera. But, no, if whether you're a producer or you're someone listening that needs help with your health insurance, it is that time of year, but the great thing about our health plans is we write them year-round. So whether
Mm.
it's your time or not, we'd love to help you whenever it's right for you.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This was really informative. And um, I think that there's, a lot of education that we can take on for ourselves. And we, as consumers, I don't think that we look at insurance as something that we need to, really spend time educating ourselves on, but really and truly we do. So thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Right. Thank you for spending time with me today on Small Strides, Big Business. I hope this conversation gave you some clarity, confidence, or one new idea to move your agency forward. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to follow or subscribe and share it with another agent who could benefit. I'm Crystal Small, and remember, every small stride you take today builds the foundation for long-term confidence, stability, and growth in your business.